You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Chiro Thin, Imaging Services, Zingit Solutions, Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Everest Coaching Systems, Universal Tractioning Systems, Rhino Coaching, Chiropractic Jobs Online, and Chiro Matchmakers. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 91 of Chiro Hustle. I'm your co-host Luke Millette, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Scott Vatcher, and we discussed some really cool things about chiropractic, but also about being a dad. Stay tuned for more details. All right. So Dr. Scott, tell us about your chiropractic story and what influenced you to become a chiropractor.
This is a story that is in numerous different parts and bits and pieces. I really love telling this story. I actually haven't told it for a few years, but so hopefully you can stick with me because there's some moving parts to it. But it starts quite a while back now, back in the 90s, or I think it was around 1992. My mom hurt her back. It was in a boating accident. You know, she was out on a sailboat and they had to do like a tacking maneuver, so the boat switched sides and somebody fell on her and she just hurt her back and didn't think much of it at the time. And it just kept getting slowly worse and worse and worse, and I saw my mom start to deteriorate slowly over time, and it got from a point of just some back pain to difficult getting out of the chair to literally bedridden. And she was in bed for months on end, and things just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And throughout this whole process, she had her, trusted medical advisor, medical doctor that she'd had for 25 years, and kept going back to that doctor. And the first time around, he said, "Okay, well, it's probably just a bit of a back strain. Take some painkillers." So fine, took some painkillers, went on. That didn't help. Next time, here's some stronger painkillers. Third time, here's some painkillers and anti-inflammatories. Fourth time, we don't know what's going on. Let's look a lot closer here. Let's take some scans and, et cetera. And so things just kept getting worse and worse and worse to a point where I could see it could literally probably taken her life away a lot earlier than it should have. And finally, and I really am super glad that the doctor did this, finally, after months and months and months of this, he, one of their visits had finally said, "Listen, don't tell anyone that I told you this, but if I was you, I'd go see a chiropractor." And so she didn't even know what a chiropractor was. So she happened to just look somebody up in the Yellow Pages and call this lady up, went to see her, and she literally was hobbled in, helped into her first visit. The chiropractor did what they did, and I don't even know exactly what was done, but after that first visit, she walked out straight and hasn't looked back since. Now, she wasn't completely fixed in that one visit, of course, but it was enough of a change that it started a process that my mom is now in her 70s and doing great. And so that was step one of the story. And during this whole time, I was watching and just observing. I was a young kid helping her out. Didn't think too much of it. But during my life, I knew I always wanted to be a medical doctor. And so I was going through the process. I did a degree in biochemistry. And I had a plan set out, which was I was going to do my bachelor's, apply to medical school. Then I was, sorry about that, throw out there, and then apply to medical school, likely not get in because most people don't get in their first try. Go back to an honors degree, apply again, probably maybe not get in that time, then go back to a master's degree, apply again, and eventually I'd get in. I'd go right to doing PhD, so it might take me a number of years. So I did my honors degree, I did my bachelor's degree, applied, I didn't get in, did my honors degree, but during that year of doing my honors, I realized something pretty important, and that was I hated research. I did not want to do research at all, And I knew if I was continuing on this path, I would have had to do 2 years of a master's, 3 years of a PhD. So in that year, I thought, oh, this is a big thing, because I really don't want to continue down having to do this. So I applied to medical school, hoping that I'd get in. But then I also remembered back to what happened to Mum, and I said, you know what, as this backup thing, I'll apply to chiropractic school as well, just as this backup. And so I did that. And during this time when I was doing my honors degree and applying to medical school and chiropractic school, I had an opportunity to go and interview a number of medical doctors and a number of chiropractors. And so as I went around and I interviewed them, one of the main questions I asked was, how much do you love your profession, and would you recommend that I do it? And I was absolutely blown away by the response, because every single chiropractor had said, this is the best thing ever. You should definitely become a chiropractor. And every single doctor that I went to see, guess what they said? Any ideas?
No idea.
Every single one of them said, you should definitely not become a medical doctor. It's the worst thing ever. I was absolutely blown away. So that really opened my eyes as well. So I had this thing with my mother and how the medical industry had failed her and how chiropractic was so great. And then I did these interviews, and, glaringly in my face was every chiropractor saying how much they loved what they did, and every medical doctor saying how much they hated what they did. And so then I applied, and this is what happened. I got put on the waiting list for medical school, which basically means I'm almost in. If somebody else drops out, I get in. And I got accepted to chiropractic school. And so even with all of that was going on, I still had it in my mind that I was waiting for that wait list to come through. And what happened was time went on, and it got to a point where I had to accept for chiropractic school. And so I did. And so I said, you know what? The waiting list is still happening. That may never happen. So I had to fly. I'm from a place called Newfoundland in Canada. And so I had to fly up to Toronto to go to CMCC, which was the school up there. And so I flew up, and I had got there, found a place, and a couple of days later, like literally about 2 days before school started, I got a call from the medical school. And the call was a message, and because I wasn't able to answer the phone at the time, because it was back in the day, it was so long ago, I didn't even have a mobile phone, right? So I had a message on my calling machine, and it said, you've been accepted from the wait list, but you need to tell me today whether you're going to accept it. And so, this was the major fork in the road of my whole life. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Am I going to go back to Newfoundland and go to medical school? Am I going to stay in Toronto and go to chiropractic school? You couldn't imagine, of two different lives. And so they wanted to know absolutely straight away. So I called them. I said, listen, you got to give me until the morning. And so they agreed to that. So I sat down and I made a list of the pros and the cons of continue with chiropractic and continue with medicine. And when I did that, and I'm so glad this happened this way, because when I did it, when I made the list, it was so obvious to me that chiropractic was the right choice. I don't know how I didn't see it before, but I think why it happened was that so that I would never look back and think, oh, I just did chiropractic because I didn't get into medical school. So by being accepted into medical school and being able to turn that down and then make the right choice to become a chiropractor, I never looked back. And my mother to this day is so funny because, she's one of the main reasons why I ended up becoming a chiropractor. But she still jokes today and says, but you're not a real doctor, right? And so it's a pretty funny story to tell. And that's how I got into chiropractic. It's quite an awesome story I love telling, and let's go on.
Yeah, it's really cool to be on this side of the story too, and to be able to listen. And that's something, as you've probably learned being a podcaster yourself, that your listening technique and your listening ability gets better over time by interviewing people. And I bet it was really cool to go into the MD and to the Chiro offices and just kind of interview people and get a feel of, what the right choice was for yourself. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And, when you opened up what your chiropractic story was, you told us a story about your mother. And when you told us a story about your mother, it's not uncommon to hear those stories day after day in chiropractic clinics across the world. And most of the time, Dr. Scott, what I tell people is typically people don't take that first step to doing anything because they don't know where to go or who to trust. And they end up getting cycled up into some system that they really don't know anything about. And the people administering it are just kind of playing guesswork. And, I think it's really cool that you've gone through that whole transition. And it is proof. It's certainly proof that, you did make the right decision because of the opportunity to actually bail out and go do the other track of becoming an MD. So, yeah, it's a great story, man.
Yeah, and I think there's a stat out there somewhere, I don't know if it's true or not, that says, 90% of what science has proven to be right today is proved wrong 10 years from now. It's something like that, 10 or 20 years. So there's no doubt that it's guesswork, right? And in even, a lot of chiropractic, to be honest, there's guesswork involved. That's what being in practice is all about, right? You're practicing all the time and getting better, but it is guesswork and figuring out what's going to work. And I would much rather be on the side of working with people one-on-one, with working with their bodies and their innate ability to heal themselves, than cutting them open or giving them drugs.
Yeah,
it just makes sense to me.
It does. And it's really great for you to be able to share your story. And I think it's an awesome platform that people are going to be able to learn from, and I just think it's fun to be able to interview you because you have such a unique background of how you just made this big decision to be a chiropractor. Now let's fast forward into the future. And what makes you unique now after your years of service in the chiropractic profession?
I saw this question and it was interesting because, I think we all have a little bit of a dichotomy in us of that we all think we're that special snowflake.
We sure do.
Yeah, but then on the other side, we are all so similar. And, I remember somebody saying, we're all more alike than we are different. And we've all had unique experiences and we've all, had different mentors and different learnings, and we've gone to different seminars. And so, it's, what makes me unique is probably the same thing that makes everyone out there else unique. What I would suggest, and because, I've personally experienced this, is the mentors that we get and the mentors that we, sort of bow down to and put up on a pedestal. In reality, a lot of those guys and girls are just like us, and when you get to know them, you realize how much they are similar and how much they are flawed, just like we have flaws. And so I'd be careful to put people on a pedestal, even if you think that they should be on a pedestal, is really get to know them, interact with them. In today's world, again, of social media, and, like I'm here on the Gold Coast of Australia, you're in Colorado, and it's 7 o'clock in the morning here, and it's probably like midnight over there. I don't know what time it is over there. But in today's world, it is such an amazing way. You can almost get in contact with anybody fairly easily through, especially if it's a mentor, somebody in the chiropractic profession or, in the marketing profession or whatever. In today's world, people are really willing to share, whether it's a message or, just posting on Facebook and those types of things. So, I think I've gone a little bit off topic here with my uniqueness, but, getting in touch with these people that you consider to be mentors to find out what they do to become who they became, because really it's just pressure over time. If you're doing the right thing for a long enough period of time, you're going to end up achieving the goals that you want to achieve. It's just a matter of time.
Now, you're also an author and a speaker and a coach. Is that true too?
Yes, to a certain degree. I was doing some coaching. I'm not at this moment. And an author. I've written for sports magazines for years, and I'm actually writing a book at the moment. Now, the book is in a completely different realm, in another sort of my pet passions. It's not in the chiropractic profession. And I love speaking every chance I get. I can speak till the cows come home.
That's great. So what are some of your favorite motivational quotes or mantras that just keep you fired up day after day?
I'm a quotes guy. I love quotes on my Facebook pages. I put quotes up all the time. My most recent one that I've seen that I really like is quite a funny one. It says, "Strong people don't put others down; they lift them up." And in the picture is a picture of Darth Vader, and he's got his hand around the guy's neck and he's lifting him off the ground. And so I thought that was quite a interesting quote. So I really enjoy quotes. I don't have one that is my favorite or one that, I use as a mantra or, use on a daily basis. I look at quotes all the time and they really touch me in ways, I probably read 2 or 3 quotes a day. But one that does stand out a little bit is a mentor of mine, Arnaud Bernier. I don't know if you guys have heard of him.
We just interviewed him on our last episode.
Are you serious? Yeah. Arnaud's a good friend of mine. I was going to say, if you haven't had him on the podcast yet, you got to get him on. That guy is absolutely incredible. And he I don't know if he still does the seminar or not, but it was in Colorado. Me and a good friend of mine, Norm Detillieu. He's another guy. He's an amazing chiropractor out in Western Canada. You should get him on the show as well. But me and Norm, when we were in chiropractic school, jumped in his small little car and drove from Toronto down to Colorado for Arnaud's seminar. And I can't even remember what it was called. It was a week-long seminar. It was such an amazing experience. And one of the major things that he gets across is that who we are as people precedes who we are as chiropractors, and to not lose that. And in my life, I've lost that sometimes, especially in chiropractic school, where I just dove so deep into chiropractic that I lost myself. But I've come out the other side and realized that myself as a person is who I need to take care of first. And for that reason, then I can take care of my people as a chiropractor the best way possible. So I think that's a really important sort of idea to get across, is making sure that you take care of yourself first. Put yourself first so that you can take care of others.
So what's possible in the future with everything you're doing and accomplishing?
It's an interesting one with what's possible in the future. I mean, the old cliche is anything is possible, but I don't truly believe that anything is possible. I think if you really want something to happen and you focus on that thing, it may mean that you have other areas of your life go away or fall apart because of it. But if you want to achieve something particular, I believe that you can pretty much achieve what you want. And what's possible for me, I've done a lot of things in the chiropractic world, as podcasts and created seminars and coaching and things like that. So, but at this stage, I've really come back to my own and really been focusing on my own practice. And I don't know if you'd call it a blockage in practice for many years, where I felt like I had to be the perfect person. I had to be, the healthiest person and the most knowledgeable person, and not, let my guard down and make sure that all my people in practice thought that I was this amazing thing. And, it was exhausting. It was just so exhausting to try to maintain that. So I've really just peeled back a lot of things in my life, and I'm focusing on my own practice right now to to just serve my people as best as possible. Now, I think that I will get back into a lot of things as time goes on, but at this stage in my life, I've done that, and I've opened up a lot in practice, and I'm more myself. I don't know how many times through the day we are laughing, myself and my staff, and the people that come in, we're laughing, we're getting great work done, we're seeing great results, and we're seeing a lot of people. So I'm just at a really good point right now for me in my own practice, doing what I want to do and doing what I love.
Yeah, it's cool to hear your story. It's nice just to sit back and listen. And, Luke does such a good job of interviewing with me. It's kind of fun to do a co-interview to where each of us can kind of be the observer too. And that's really the goal of what we do too, is to have fun. And, traveling around and interviewing people and doing the Facebook Live interviews and doing these types of just straight audio interviews, it's all different medium, And I'm sure you experienced that too, and your medium of practice is much different than your medium as a creator or your medium as a speaker. And I think that all lend themselves to, an outlet of, enthusiasm. And so many times we don't even know how powerful we really are until we actually start to investigate what our interests are. And then over time with repetition and experience, we find out what we really enjoy to do. And then we learn from the things that we were kind of dabbling in. And if that was the right thing, we'll stick with it. But the one thing that will always bring a chiropractor back is the adjustment and being able to practice, and help people. And, that's what I've learned after hundreds and hundreds of interviews with chiropractors is chiropractors all like to go back to the basics, and that's the adjustment. And that's practice, and that's serving, and that's loving, and that's really cool to hear your story too. So I think that's it's nice to share.
I couldn't agree more that us chiropractors are a rare breed, and I think we have a very entrepreneurial spirit.
Big time.
Big time, yes, absolutely. It's such a fun place, and I've dabbled in so many different things, and I do always end up coming back to how can I be the best chiropractor to my people, and I've got to believe in myself that I'm the best chiropractor in the world for the people in front of me, and they're in the right place and I'm in the right place, and if we can work together, we can achieve great things in my community, and then potentially in the greater picture as well, which is what things like this can do, is getting just talking to people and getting messages out there and listening to different perspectives is such a great way to learn. It's such a great way to move forward.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Chiro Thin, Imaging Services, Zingit Solutions, Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Everest Coaching Systems, Universal Tractioning Systems, Rhino Coaching, Chiropractic Jobs Online, and Chiro Matchmakers. Let's hustle.
Yeah, and you said something else there I wanted to touch on, and that's the personal responsibility to look and play the part. And I think that that's sometimes a huge amount of stress on anyone that's a professional, is to be that 1%er, that doctor, and to be that person of the beacon of light for your community, and to be upstanding, and there's a lot of pressure on a lot of docs to actually perform on a daily basis too. So it's great that you've been able to learn where your energy goes is it's important as well.
Yeah, that was a huge lesson for me, and I'm willing to bet that a fair amount of listeners have either been through it themselves or are in it right now, thinking that I need to be the best. I need to prove to my people. I need to prove to the other chiropractor down the street or the medical doctor across the road that I'm the best, to get to have more people come see me, to be more successful, to do what I need to do.
Yeah,
and I would suggest back to what we talked about earlier, the uniqueness. Find out what your unique selling proposition is. Find out what it is that makes you tick, and bring that out to the world. And if you've got a quirky sense of humor, then incorporate that into your practice. Or if you're a sports person, you want to incorporate that, or a nutrition. It all might take away a little bit from chiropractic, but if you love those things, then show them in your community. And I think that'll make a big difference for just being yourself. I think to avoid burnout is a huge one, because I felt like I was going to burn out a lot quicker.
Yeah, and you're not alone out there. And so many times we have to, posture ourselves with that type of message of, hey, I'm the best at what I do at this. And sometimes we lose ourselves in our own path. And if we just continue to just be great, everybody would speak up for us. And they would be the ones that would be our cheerleaders. But I think a lot of times the chiropractic, psyche has been a little bruised up. So it's even more important for the chiropractor to push their ego up to the top of the mountain. And sometimes when you do that, you kind of you burn out, and you push yourself to excellence, and over time that might not always be the best course of action for the chiropractor to find their balance with success.
Yeah, I mean, I think the time of ego is passing, and time of being real. With the good, the bad, the ugly. I think if you're out there and you're practicing chiropractor, you made it through chiropractic school, you're out there doing it, and you're probably trying to get better every day at what you do. And you're already, as far as your understanding of the body and health and vitality, you're already in the 99th percentile. So just be yourself and continue to strive for excellence, of course, and always strive to be better than you are, but realize that you're already there, and you're already going to be able to contribute fantastically to your community, and just do what you do.
So what would you say is the most impactful thing that's happened to the profession in the last 10 years?
The most impactful thing that's happened? That's an interesting question. I think there's been a lot of things happen, like I'm in Australia, you guys are over in America, I know Canada's different. We have some similarities, but we do have differences, for our governing board and our marketing strategies and stuff. We are not allowed to use testimonials, as an example. I don't know if you knew that over this way.
Oh, yeah.
There's some dramatic differences where there's been a real crackdown in chiropractic over here in Australia, and I'm sure it's happened over there as well with the Friends of Medicine and Friends of Science and Medicine, etc. There's been a real crackdown, and it's been an interesting time over here in Australia where some people have jumped on board the ship of we should go more medical. And I think in America there's even talk of being able to prescribe and things like that. And then the other side is, gone and gotten stronger as far as, no, that's not what we want. That's not who we are. That's not a part of what we do. So the most impactful thing, I honestly, nothing in my head pops out, but it's just a very interesting time to be a chiropractor and have to jump through the hoops of what we need to do to be able to practice properly, but then also get that message across as to what it is we do to our people. It's been a really interesting time to do that.
So, yep, there we go. So here's a springboard question. The next one is, where do you see the profession in, say, the next 20 years now?
Oh, who knows? The very same, idea comes into my head about this is, one part of me, the hopeful part goes that we're on the top of the healthcare ladder, that we're up there, and people have adopted the message that we're talking about, because so many other people talk about this message in their own way and then say, well, that's my message. Well, chiropractic's been talking about that for the last 100 years, right? But now all of a sudden it's your message and it's a new thing, which it isn't. And I think you should give props to where they're due.
Heck yeah.
These guys, Dee and BJ, they were probably 200 years ahead of their time. Like, we're still not caught up to their ideas and thoughts, which is just phenomenal. But then the other side of me, the cynical side, and the other side thinks that it is quite likely we might get lost into the abyss of what's happening here, because what pops into my head is how the Nazis took over, and they just did it by chipping away one little tiny human right next to the other, to the point where it wasn't fully noticed until it was too late. And I do see that happening we're just getting our rights as chiropractors taken away, just slowly, one little thing at a time, not too much to cause a complete uproar, but to cause little factions of people talking about it and being upset about it, but not big enough to do anything about it. And so I totally see both sides occurring. I'm on the hopeful side. That's what I hope is happening, and I think one of the main ways is just as individuals to keep doing what we're doing and affecting our own community, because it's not us that's going to do it. It's the people, right? If it comes down to it, it's the people that we're serving, and when they start to hear about what's going on, they're going to be the ones, you might be seeing one of your clients, or your client's brother might be the minister of health, or who knows, right? You don't know where the influence is going to come from. But I'm on that hopeful side that we are going to continuously rise to get to the top of that healthcare ladder.
Well, you said some interesting things there that make me want to, stir up a little bit. And the first thing that you said was about the Palmers. And I think that the world needs to understand this, that every once in a while, an Einstein comes along. Every once in a while, Tesla comes along, or Thomas Edison comes along, or a Ford comes along. And, I think more people will come to realize that the Palmers have such a legacy that they've created with the chiropractic profession that they will feel very, very valued in the future to say that these men came along and then these chiropractors followed. And honestly, Scott, one of my intentions is to take the chiropractor off the endangered species list. And the chiropractor is a very at-risk population. And after I've done 500 interviews with chiropractors in the past 2 years, I know the pain points. And the pain point is that we have to start chipping back and taking back one thing at a time. And we have to start building more and giving more, one thing at a time. And that's what's going to change it to moving away from the allopathic model that wants to absorb the beautiful profession of chiropractic, and getting chiropractic to turn the corner to be its self-standing profession that you said could be at the top of the ladder. Well, when it comes down to it, chiropractic is the top of the ladder. We just have to keep on banging the drum louder.
Yeah, and I take my hat off to the scientists who are pushing forward, because that's today's language. The guys who are getting out the research articles that are not allopathically based, but are like chiropractic research stuff. It's just awesome. Like ASRF over here in Australia, which I've mentioned that they should maybe change their name to the Worldwide Spinal Research Foundation. They're majorly reaching out around the world and doing an awesome job. And to the people who who are actually doing the research. I know, like Heidi Havoc over here in New Zealand is just an amazing. I don't know if you had her on the show yet, have you?
We have not.
There's another one for you. She's incredible.
Send us a connector message. We've tried to get her on.
Okay, all right. I'll see what I can do. People like that are just absolutely incredible in what they're doing. Because I said earlier, through going through my journey, I realized I hated research. The 1 year of my honors degree almost killed me. So I'm not going to be the research guy. And then the people who are sitting on the boards, of the chiropractic associations, who take time out of their busy schedule, their own lives. I'm sure they got families, they got kids, and so they're taking that extra time to, try to make these shifts and changes. And, I take my hat off to him. So, thank you guys for doing that. And, you know who you are.
So tell us some of your favorite marketing strategies that you just could not do without.
Oh, I mean, at this stage in the game, you sum it up with one word, don't you? Facebook. Facebook has been phenomenal for my practice, using ads, using, not ads as well, growing the community and stuff like that. But there's no doubt things will change, whether it be, Facebook decides to change their advertising strategies or whatever the case might be. So I think you don't want to put too much into one, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket no matter what, because it's going to change. It's going to adapt. It was Google. Now it's Facebook. Who knows what the next big thing is. So it's always about making sure that you put your head down and, make sure you know what's out there as far as what's happening. But for me right now, there's no doubt Facebook ads. But the other side is really I probably get as many people in from referrals than I do from Facebook. And so internal versus external marketing, right? I really have a good focus on good quality client experience. I don't want to say education because, to be honest, people coming in don't really care too much about chiropractic. They care about what chiropractic can do for them. And I think educating in that way is much more important than educating on, DD and BJ and the green books. That's for us to understand, for our certainty, more so, I think, than the average person coming in. So, we have a good mixture, but there's no doubt if I had to pick one at this stage in the game, it would be Facebook ads.
So, marketing aside, what would you say is your favorite app that you use more than any other app?
My favorite app. Now, I know as far as, if we get back into practice-wise, we go old school, and mostly what we do is one-on-one phone calls. I think in today's world of apps and technology and on their phone all the time, how often as a chiropractor and with postural effects of being on your phone do I say get off your phone? But, we use it all the time, even with apps, but then calling people. So, I'm old school that way. Phone calls and text messages are my go-to for client communication and just being in contact with people.
So as you develop, as you were saying earlier, you look up to a mentor and people look up to the mentors, and then you become the chiropractor and you become that leader. Now, saying that you're positioned as a provider for chiropractic, what do you kind of do to read to keep you up to date on, whether it's for pleasure or for learning more about your profession? What do you like to read?
I'm a big mix of reading. I have my Kindle. It's funny, there's been some debates on Facebook recently with, Kindle versus real books. And do you guys use Kindle or real books?
I'm a real book guy.
Yeah, I was a real book guy forever. And I could not be convinced that Kindle was the way to go. But I got to say, once getting a Kindle, I do read real books, but I read much more in the way of Kindle. They're just amazing. It's just a great way to get the information across. But so and then audiobooks and then podcasts. I really try and maximize my time with my drive to work, when I'm dropping the kid at school. All of these things will be times that I'm listening all the time. So in the evening before bed, I'll do my light reading, my fiction, my novels, my crime thrillers and that kind of thing. But during the day, one great podcast I'm listening to right now. Have you guys interviewed Sean Dill?
We know Sean very well. We haven't done, we have. We've done an episode with him, and we've done several lives with him as well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, he's a good mentor of mine at the moment, and he does some podcasts, which are absolutely brilliant. And audiobooks, I'm sure. Did I see you guys went to 10X recently?
Yeah, we just got back from 10X, and man, we're on fire.
Yeah, yeah. Some of my favorites: Grant Cardone, Seth Godin, Ray Dalio, Gary Vee, Oren Klaff, Eric Rees. Just constant, and I think as far as marketing, a big part I think is we need to get out of our heads as chiropractors with marketing and look at what actually marketing is. And then I'm sure you guys do that with your services as well. It's like trying to market to that ideal client to get the best results, so that there's a fit, so that everyone is in the right place at the right time to get what they need, and everyone's having a great time doing it.
Yeah, on the topic of reading, I don't know, I have some kind of adult ADHD when it comes to books, so I have to listen or it doesn't get done.
Yeah, I must admit my audiobook file, I guess, or like my number of audiobooks has been dramatically increasing recently, and my reading has been going downhill. So I think it's today's world. You can't read more than a text message these days.
It's true. So what are some web resources where people can find you and your work?
I mean, I've got my chiropractic website, but that's, geared towards clients. It's probably like your run-of-the-mill chiropractic website, but, my other side project, my passion project on the side is, it's called a movement called Daddius, which is for dads. And it was what I mentioned earlier with one of my favorite quotes with Arno is, who we are as people precedes who we are as chiropractors. And I just found that dads are not really, they don't have the support out there. And I know a lot of chiropractors out there are dads. So, I mean, probably one of the best ways to get a hold of me is through the Wake Up Dad Show at gmail.com. That's the podcast I do for dads. And it's, it really has nothing to do with chiropractic, but I reckon a lot of chiropractors out there would get value out of it, because if you need to, value yourself first before you can give your best service, it's just a support network for dads. That's my other, like I said, my other side pet project.
So where would someone go if they wanted to book you as a speaker?
You could just email me. That would be the best way to do it.
Okay. Well, this has been a very insightful episode. We're just about at the end here, but we wanted to make sure there was anything else you wanted to cover before the show is over.
No, I enjoyed the chat, guys. Thanks so much. Keep doing what you do, and it's people like you that are gonna combine together and make the difference. And I hope to see you guys over here in Australia.
Yeah, the chiropractic world definitely needs all people on board, all hands on deck. And I think, the more that people realize that the message and the story of chiropractic that we share on Chiro Hustle is one that not only is having an impact on the chiropractic profession, but it is actually living outside the four walls of chiropractic. And I think that that's something that I'm very, very proud of for what we've been able to accomplish as two guys with a microphone.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, two guys, one microphone. No one would ever guess. All right, Dr. Scott, well, thank you once again for being our guest today. We had a lot of fun.
Thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.